In this series of videos, I'm going to teach you how to create your own exercise program. Exercise doesn't have to be complicated, you don't even have to do it all the time, and it doesn't even have to be insanely difficult for you to get some amazing benefits from it. So I think if you understand some basic principles and you know how to set goals and how to target those goals, you're gonna have a great time with exercise and it can be enjoyable and effective. Let's check it out. So in order to really teach you how to create your own exercise program, I've broken it down into these component parts here, and I'm going to make several videos on this because I really want to give an opportunity for you to understand these bulleted concepts. So in this video, we'll talk about how to set goals, how to address all of the aspects of fitness and make sure that your physical fitness is balanced, that you get all the things that you need from it. We'll talk about bare minimums. I mean, how little can you exercise and still have it, give you some real benefit? And then we'll talk about, based on your specific goals, how we can start to target those with training that will accomplish your goal, but not necessarily somebody else's goal. Just so you know, while I'm filming this course, I'm also elaborating on these notes and creating a little mini course. So each of the topics that I discuss in this video, you're gonna see me break down each of those topics even further with really specific examples and takeaways and practical applications in a full mini course. But that's gonna be coming soon, so look out for that. And of course, that's gonna be available to all access members on my website. So the first thing you need to do is set goals. Why are you exercising? Some people want to get strong, some people want to lose weight, some people want to feel better just all around. Some people are trying to prevent, diseases in the future, and so they want to make sure their cardiovascular health is up to par. A lot of yoga people really just want to get more flexible. All of these things are really great reasons to exercise, and you don't have to care about all of these things. You could just care about one or two or three or whatever, however many you want. And your goals might change later down the road. Once you actually start exercising, you might become interested in an aspect of fitness that previously you weren't interested in. But understanding your goals really helps to design your program. So if your goal, for example, is to be social, then you don't need to be picking up really heavy weight to do that. You could join a running club or a mountain club and go for hikes with people, or you could go to your group fitness classes or group yoga classes. At that point, the sky, or it's really kind of the world is your oyster. Just pick something you enjoy and that has other people doing it at the same time, and you're good. However, if your goal was to put on more muscle, for example, you might need a more specifically designed program. So group classes would actually probably be a bad idea for you if you really wanted to specifically gain muscle or specifically gain strength, because your program really needs to be uniquely tailored to you, and group classes just can't accomplish that. So if you understand your goals, then you can figure out the right type of exercise for you. The next thing I want you to know is that, to get a balanced physical fitness program, you want to consider all of the aspects of physical fitness. So for the general population, if you're just trying to make sure you stay healthy and you get all of what you need and none of what you don't, then this slide is going to teach you that. So generally speaking, and by the way, here's a reference of where I'm getting this information. You can always download my slides if you're a member on my website. But if you were looking at the general components of fitness, we have musculoskeletal fitness, which incorporates all the things down here. But then we also have like flexibility and body composition. And I realize body composition is kind of a hotly discussed topic. But generally speaking, when we look at body composition, just so you know, we're really concerned about the underlying physiology. We're not saying that, having adipose tissue or having fat on your body is necessarily bad. What is concerning is that it happens to be closely linked with, physiological markers of ill health or risk factors for certain diseases, especially heart disease. Being over or underweight or having way too little muscle mass on your body, although those things don't always indicate poor health, they do tend to be closely related to it. And then of course, cardiorespiratory endurance, you want to have good lungs and a good heart and a good vascular system, because most of the disease in the world is linked to the heart and the vessels. And so we want to make sure those are in tip-top shape. And then what most people think of when they think of fitness, I think, is musculoskeletal fitness. So we talk about strength, which is just picking up heavy things. We talk about endurance, which is being able to do the same thing over and over again and feel strong in that pursuit. Then there's power, and power is maximum speed with force and like jumping as far as you can, or doing a clean and jerk or something like that. And then flexibility, of course, the ability to actually move your joints through a range of motion. So this is important for you to consider, because even if you are mainly concerned, let's say with strength, that's your main goal. Well, you might want to keep all these other things in mind and realize that for your heart health, you might still want to go running or walking or hiking or something like that once in a while, and vice versa. If your goal is rather specific, we just want to consider all of these aspects and hopefully do a little bit of, the things that you don't tend to favor as much, just to make sure that you have a well-rounded program. So if I break this idea down a little bit further, and this is my opinion based on the research and all of my schooling, which is that, if we really look at our priorities, I think this might surprise some people, especially in the yoga world. Mobility, not really super important, but cardio, so making sure your heart and your vessels are really healthy, and then strength, making sure your muscles, bones, and tendons and ligaments and all that are nice and strong. Those are going to be the most important things for sure. And then after that would be, I would say, athleticism, which is being able to use your cardio and your strength in more dynamic athletic kinds of movements. And think about it this way, is flexibility really important for preventing injury? Not so much, I'd say. If you fall and trip on the curb, is it your flexibility that saves you, or is it your ability to quickly adapt and step and catch yourself? Well, that's more of an athletic thing, and that's more about, the strength of your ligaments and that kind of stuff. And then your ability to heal from injury would be more of a cardiovascular thing. So mobility is just not as important, I think, as most people think it is. And I could elaborate on that a little bit further and just compare it to a good meal. And a good meal is going to have, to have a well-balanced diet, you're going to have some carbs and your fats and your proteins. And then, of course, you want to have vegetables. You want to have your micronutrients as well. But micronutrients, if we think about mobility as micronutrients, it'd be like, people are obsessed now with, eating green powders with like spirulina and chlorella and blue-green algae and those kinds of things. You can't survive on that stuff, to my knowledge. It would be ridiculous, right? You need carbs, fats, and proteins. You have to have those macronutrients. These are the most important parts of your fitness meal, if you will. And then the micronutrients, yeah, you should have those. You should, of course, have vitamins. You should have some nutritional density to your food, and you should be able to move throughout your full range of motion. But it's like good carbs. Vegetables are carbs, right? But vegetables also have micronutrients. So if your cardio moves you through a range of motion, that's kind of a mobility exercise, right? If your fats, like an avocado is a good example. An avocado, yeah, it does have fats in it, but it also has a bunch of micronutrients that are really good for you. Or, a salmon has some protein and some fats, and it has other good micronutrients that are good for you. So that is covering the mobility basis. You really don't have to train mobility if you don't want to, if your carbs and fats and proteins also happen to have some of that mobility worked into it as it is. A simple example is like if you deadlift or squat. If you deadlift to full depth, that's a hamstring stretch, right? And if you squat to full depth, that's a lot of range of motion for your ankles, knees, and hips, right? So it's a mobility exercise, but it's also cardio, or it's also strength, or it's also athletic. So you don't have to do mobility. But how little exercise can you get away with? I realize a lot of people are just crazy busy, and I think time is one of the most important factors that keeps people from exercising at all. And I think people have this idea that you have to meet certain criteria, you have to exercise for like an hour for it to be useful, and that's just not true. So if we look at bare bones, and here are my references, by the way, and you could see like 1 corresponds to 1. Anyway, so bare bones, like if you just really, like what's the bare minimum I can do and still be healthy? Well, they would look at about 7,000 steps a day, which actually is quite a bit. But if we break it down in a different way, instead of looking at steps, if we instead looked at minutes, total minutes of moderate intensity exercise, we could get 90 minutes a week, which is like 12 minutes a day. 12 minutes a day. If you go on a 12-minute walk around, a couple of blocks and come back to your house, or you get up and you walk in place for 12 minutes per day, that totally counts. And you definitely get a lot of benefit. Yeah, you get more benefit if you do more exercise, but 12 minutes a day legitimately staves off a lot of risk for future disease. There was even one study that I found that said 30 minutes per week. 30 minutes per week could be, and that's just what, a few minutes a day basically. So 30 minutes a week could still be better than nothing. So don't be overwhelmed that you have to do this huge program. You can do just a little bit to start off and still get some real benefit. So that's bare bones, bare minimum, but the general guidelines, like the Surgeon General's guidelines, or in this case, I'm referencing the World Health Organization and their guidelines. So generally speaking, we're going to want to accumulate a total of 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise, which would be something like walking at a brisk pace, or hiking is kind of between moderate and vigorous. And vigorous intensity exercise, we would want to do basically 75 minutes per week. So depending on how intense your exercise is too. So if you're short on time, go run instead of walking. And then you don't have to spend as much time exercising. So just keep these things in mind. If time is of the essence for you, just do things that are more intense and you don't have to spend as much time. Very small movement snacks, if you will, can be very effective. Quick reminder, you can download my notes if you're a member, and there's a members resource library. So all these notes are in there. And lastly, if we have a specific goal, then we can start to target it with specific training. So what I mean, and the whole reason we set our goals is because if I want to get flexible, and that's my goal, then I'm not going to train. I don't necessarily need to train by picking up the heaviest weight imaginable. You don't have to do that. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't like picking up heavy weights. So if you understand your goals, you can train specifically to achieve them. So if you really want to get strong, then the best way to do that, really, you do have to pick up heavy things. And if you're not picking up heavy things, if all you do is bodyweight exercise and yoga, by the true definition of strength, and I have videos talking about that, by the true definition of strength, you just won't really max out your strength, and you won't have that kind of benefit if you don't pick up heavy things at least once in a while. Or maybe you want to get endurance. So if you want to train for muscular endurance or cardiovascular endurance, then it's pretty simple. Just get your heart rate up. Do something that gets your heart rate up and keeps it there for an extended duration of time. And as long as you're doing that, you're probably doing the right stuff. And don't worry too much about the specific. What if you want to get more powerful and athletic? Well, I mean, it's simple. Jump around, right? Jump forward, jump sideways, do triplanar lunges, those kinds of things. Move in all directions and move quickly. So like ladder drills or sprints or running up hills or shuttle runs or things like that. Hopping around on one foot. Whatever, hopscotch, I don't care, get a jump rope, do whatever you want. Go play basketball. That would be actually pretty good for your power. And then of course, flexibility. If you want to be flexible, you need to use all of your joints in their full range of motion very often. So that doesn't have to be body weight though. You could do that with weights if you wanted, but just generally speaking, use your body in every direction in all of your major joints, and you're probably going to be fine. So of course we could break down each of these in a lot more specific detail, and I will do that in future videos. But the point here is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be fairly straightforward, and you can get a lot of benefits out of exercise. In the future parts of this series, I will break it down. And of course, in the mini course, I will break it down even further with specific recommendations. I'll see you next time.